I always thought cheating was when you find someone else's underwear in the bed. But my wife turned out to be more creative. She burst into the house on Thursday night, disheveled, smeared mascara, a shoe in her hand. Said she'd been at her sister's. I believed her. A week later, I found a second phone. And when I opened it, there was a photo. She wasn't kissing just anyone. She was kissing her sister's husband. And you know what hurt the most? She looked me in the eyes and said, "You do trust me, right?" And I was already holding proof that she'd been lying to my face every single day. That's when I realized, I don't want the truth anymore. I want her to pay. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Our house sat quiet on a cul-de-sac in suburban Houston. I worked full-time in HVAC logistics. Clean hands, tired eyes, decent paycheck. Claire did freelance marketing from home, bouncing between clients and phone calls. We had Taco Tuesdays, family game night, and a backyard full of weeds we never got around to pulling. Normal life. But that night, lying next to her in bed, listening to her fake a peaceful sleep, I realized something else had moved in with us. Doubt. And it had teeth. The morning light in our bedroom didn't feel warm. It felt like an interrogation lamp. Claire was already at the mirror, brushing her hair with this forced ease that didn't match the rawness of the night before. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching her reflection. She caught my eyes in the mirror and offered a casual, way too cheerful morning. I didn't answer. She turned. "Listen, about last night. I know I look like a mess. Amanda and I just had a dumb fight. It wasn't anything serious." "What was it about?" I asked. She shrugged. "Nothing. Old stuff. We got wine drunk and emotional." She said something about Mom. I snapped back. "You know how sisters are." I didn't know. Claire and Amanda rarely fought. And when they did, it never ended with Claire sneaking into the house like a raccoon at midnight. "You could have called," I said. Claire sighed. I wasn't thinking straight. And then it got late. I just wanted to come home and crash, covered in mascara and dragging a heel. She raised an eyebrow. "You want me to send you a play-by-play next time I cry in a parking lot?" "That's not what I—" "Look," she said, sharper now. "It was just a stupid night. I'm not hiding anything. Can we not make this a federal case?" I didn't answer, not because I agreed, but because I didn't trust myself to speak. She finished her makeup and kissed the top of my head like everything was fine. "Love you," she said on her way out. I sat there a while, staring at the closed bedroom door. Then I grabbed my phone. Amanda answered on the third ring. "Hey, Jonathan." "Wow, early call," she said, still groggy. "What's up?" I forced a neutral tone. "Claire said she was at your place last night. Everything okay?" Amanda laughed. "Oh yeah, that mess. We just had too much Merlot and started arguing about Mom's will again. Same old drama." She got teary. I got teary. Then we hugged it out. "She's fine." "You sure?" "Positive." "She left around what? 10:30? Looked like a raccoon when she went out. But we were cool by then." I paused. "You're not covering for her, right?" There was a beat of silence, then another laugh. "What? No. Covering for Claire? Please, you know your wife? She's dramatic, but not sneaky. Is something going on?" Amanda asked, suddenly more alert. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see it. "No, thanks for confirming." "Anytime, brother-in-law," she said lightly. "Tell Claire I said hi." I hung up and stared at the phone for a long minute. Then I went to the garage. Funny how a place meant for storage can turn into a confession booth. I stood there between the ladder and the lawn mower, pacing in slow circles while my mind raced. Amanda sounded convincing. Too convincing. The thing about Claire, she wasn't a great liar, but she never had to be. I'd always trusted her blindly. Now that trust felt like a frayed rope I couldn't stop pulling on. I looked at her car, keys still in the ignition from last night. Her purse sat on the passenger seat, right where she always threw it. I stared at it through the window. No, not yet. I backed off and leaned against the tool cabinet, rubbing the back of my neck. A storm was building in my chest, and I knew whatever this was, it wasn't going to fade quietly. It never does. It happened on a Wednesday, just past 9. The kind of evening that's supposed to feel quiet, safe, boring even. I walked in from the kitchen, still drying my hands, when I caught the motion. Claire sitting on the couch, jerking her hand fast beneath the throw pillow like a magician hiding a trick. Her eyes snapped up to mine, too fast. She gave me that same bright smile she'd been practicing all week, but her fingers twitched. That tiny, almost invisible flinch gave her away. What was that? I asked, still mid-step. She tilted her head. What? Under the pillow. Claire laughed, sharp, just a little too loud. My phone. I dropped it. Relax. I stared at the cushion. Show me. She blinked, then without a pause pulled the phone out and tossed it toward me. Go ahead, knock yourself out. Code's still the same. I didn't move. Her smile faded slightly. What? I'm not interested in your code, I said. I want honesty, not surveillance. Claire exhaled like I'd just insulted her. Then why the weird demand? If you trust me, check it. If not, then let's have the actual conversation. I stepped around the couch and lowered into the armchair across from her. You acted like a teenager hiding something. I dropped my phone, she repeated, but this time her tone was tight, defensive. And maybe I didn't want to crack the screen. Maybe I was texting Amanda about the dumb brunch she wants to plan. Or maybe I was looking at shoes and didn't want to lecture about money. I didn't say anything about money. You always do, she muttered, grabbing the remote. And now you're mad that I'm not mad you didn't check my phone. She turned on the TV. That sudden glow from the screen felt like a third person in the room. Unwelcome, loud, fake. I watched her a while. She wouldn't look at me. Claire just flicked through channels until she landed on some cooking show. The volume was too low to hear, but she stared at it like it was the most gripping drama on earth. My voice was low when I finally said, I can't shake this feeling. She paused, still glued to the screen. What feeling? That you're lying to me. She didn't move for a moment. Then quietly, she said, I'm not. I stood up. I don't believe you. Her jaw clenched, but she didn't answer. I didn't wait. I walked out of the room and down the hallway. The echo of my footsteps sounded louder than usual, like I was stomping through something sacred. In the garage again, I found myself standing in front of the workbench, palms flat on either side. The house was quiet. That artificial calm where nobody says the truth out loud, but it still presses against your ribs anyway. There was something in Claire's eyes earlier. That hesitation, that flicker of panic before she offered me the phone. It wasn't guilt. It was strategy. The kind you only use when you've practiced not getting caught. I sat down on the old bench, the one with paint splatters and oil stains. My father built this thing when I was a teenager. Solid wood. No secrets. I missed that kind of certainty. That brutal honesty you get from tools and bolts and cuts that hurt, but never lied to you. Claire and I used to talk out here. We'd sit on warm evenings drinking beer while the crickets sang, legs swinging like kids from this very spot. Now it felt like a war bunker. I wasn't angry, not yet, but I was aware now in a way I hadn't been before. Something was moving behind the curtain, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to rip it down or wait for it to fall. Saturday morning had that strange, deceptive calm, the kind where the sun shines a little too bright for how tense everything really is. Claire was in the shower humming some tune I couldn't place. I was in the bedroom half-dressed, hunting for my watch. Her purse lay open on the dresser. I didn't plan to snoop. At least that's what I told myself. But my hand moved on its own. Inside, beside the usual clutter, lip balm, receipts, loose Advil, I saw it. A phone. Not her phone. Not the one I'd watched her use every day for years. This one had a cracked screen and no case, just sitting there like it had been waiting for me to find it. I stood frozen, dread crawling up my throat. My fingers brushed it. It buzzed once. An unread message notification flickered, but before I could see more, Jonathan, where's my towel? Claire's voice called from the bathroom. I snapped upright. The shower cut off. I grabbed the phone, turned it in my palm. It wasn't new. Scuff marks all over. But it was active. That's what mattered. Claire burst out of the bathroom in a cloud of steam, towel wrapped around her chest. When she saw me holding it, her expression flipped from confusion to rage. What the hell, Jonathan? I held it up. What is this? She snatched it from my hand. None of your business. The hell it's not. It's my old phone, she snapped. I forgot to toss it. Calm down. Why is it still getting texts? She blinked. Probably spam. Leftover from syncing. You don't even know what you're talking about. Then unlock it. No, Claire, I said. No, she shouted, stepping back. You're not going to dig through my stuff like I'm a criminal. I walked toward her, voice low. If there's nothing to hide, then why are you hiding it? Because it's mine, she hissed. And maybe I'm sick of feeling like I have to justify every breath I take in this house. You've been off for weeks, and you've been tailing me like a watchdog. She cut in. This marriage feels like surveillance, not love. The room burned with heat neither of us wanted. Her face was red now, her towel slipping a little, but she didn't care. She was shaking. So was I? I grabbed the phone again. I don't care if it's old. I want the truth. You're not entitled to everything just because you're scared, Jonathan. My fingers tightened. I could feel my breath speeding up. And before I realized what I was doing, I hurled the phone against the wall. It hit with a sickening crack. Pieces scattered across the hardwood floor. Silence. Claire stared at it, then at me. Then she walked out of the room. No scream. No word. Just left. I spent the next 2 hours alone, staring at the dent in the drywall. I cleaned up the pieces, sat on the edge of the bed, stared out the window at nothing. What if she was telling the truth? What if it really was her old phone? But then, why keep it hidden? Why lie about something so easy to explain? No answers came. Just that same tight knot in my chest, like I'd already crossed a line and couldn't find my way back. Monday morning was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that doesn't soothe. It scratches at your nerves. Claire's laughter floated in from the kitchen as I packed my laptop bag. She was talking to someone on speaker, probably Amanda. It sounded normal, like everything had gone back to the way it was. But it hadn't. Not for me. Not after the phone. She hadn't brought it up again, and neither had I. But we both moved around the house like ghosts, talking only when we had to, pretending small talk could patch up shattered trust. She finished her call and went upstairs to get ready. I stepped into the garage. Her car was parked at a slant, driver's door half open like she'd forgotten she'd opened it. I moved fast, slipped into the passenger side, and slid the AirTag under the floor mat. Small, quiet, anonymous, and it made me feel sick. But I had to know. That day, I checked it 5 times before noon. Claire was at her usual spot, the downtown co-working space she used on Mondays. By 3 p.m., she hadn't moved. By 6 p.m., she was home. Normal. Tuesday, same routine. Work. Lunch at that deli near the bank. Home by dinner. Wednesday, a coffee shop near Amanda's. Back to the office. Then Amanda's house for an hour. Then home. I stared at the map, at that little blue that refused to betray her. Thursday, another repeat. Office. Target. Home. It wasn't just boring, it was maddening. Nothing wrong on the surface. But it didn't feel right either. By Saturday, I felt like I was losing my mind. No late-night detours, no strange addresses, no mysterious alleyways or hotels, or long pauses in one spot. Just the same routine she'd always claimed she followed. And yet, something felt off. Claire was cheerier that week, overcorrecting. She made dinner twice, asked about my day, even laughed at one of my dumb jokes. It wasn't normal. It was staged. Like she was rehearsing normalcy, playing the role so well I'd stop looking beneath the surface. She didn't know I was tracking her. Didn't know that every hour I was watching her little dot slide across our corner of the world, trying to catch it in a lie. Sunday night we sat in the living room watching a movie. Claire was curled under a blanket, legs crossed on the couch, popcorn in her lap. She looked relaxed, familiar, safe, but I couldn't shake the weight in my chest. I couldn't enjoy the film, couldn't hear the dialogue over the noise in my own head. I excused myself halfway through and went to the garage again, like a ritual. I opened the app. Still nothing. Just Claire's predictable pattern echoing back at me, mocking the question I couldn't let go. What am I missing? What is she hiding so well? Because the one thing I knew for certain was this. People don't suddenly become perfect after breaking something. They just get better at hiding the cracks. The coffee shop Amanda picked was one of those places that tries too hard to feel effortless. Exposed brick, Edison bulbs, vintage furniture that probably cost more than my mortgage. It wasn't my scene, but I agreed to meet her there because at that point I was running out of people to trust. Amanda arrived late, as usual. She moved with that casual confidence that came from knowing nobody ever really expected her to apologize. She spotted me, smiled, and sat across from me with a little flourish. "You look like you haven't slept in 3 days." "I haven't," I replied flatly. "Yikes. What happened now? Did Claire burn dinner, or blink too long at the mailman?" "Stop," I said. "This is serious." Amanda leaned back, tossing her sunglasses on the table. "Everything's serious with you lately." I didn't have time for her deflection. "Amanda, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth." No sarcasm. She nodded, curious now. "I think Claire's hiding something from me. Something bigger than what she's told you. I've been watching her. She's nervous, guarded. I found a second phone. She lied about it. And you, when I called you last week, you laughed. You didn't sound surprised at all. Amanda's smile faded. Because it wasn't a big deal. She said you were already paranoid, and I didn't want to throw gas on it. I leaned forward. Is she cheating? Amanda froze. That one beat of silence said more than any yes or no could. Then she chuckled. Jonathan, seriously, I'm not laughing. I'm not joking. I'm asking you as her husband and as someone I trusted. If you know something, tell me. Amanda picked up her coffee, blew on it like she needed a dramatic pause. Look, Claire's been unhappy for a while. Maybe she didn't tell you. Maybe she didn't know how to. Maybe she tried, and you didn't hear it. What does that mean? It means that if she did cheat, and I'm not saying she did, it probably wasn't about you, Amanda said, tilting her head. Some people just need something else. Something that reminds them they're alive. I stared at her, completely stunned. You're actually saying that out loud? Like it's normal. She shrugged. I'm saying if she cheated, maybe that's what she needed. The words hit like a slap. I felt it in my spine. You think that excuses it? I asked, voice low. No, but I think sometimes people break the rules when they're breaking inside. I'm her husband. She could have talked to me. Could she? Amanda asked. Would you have really hurt her? Or would you have done exactly what you're doing now? Tracked her, tested her, interrogated everyone around her like it's a courtroom. I sat back, stunned. Amanda gathered her bag and stood. You're trying to make sense of something that probably stopped making sense a long time ago. Maybe she did something awful. Maybe you did. But you're not going to find peace looking for someone to blame. And you're not going to help, I said coldly. Nope, she replied with a smirk. Not my circus. She turned to leave, but paused halfway across the cafe and glanced back. You always wanted life to be neat, Jonathan. Predictable. But sometimes people need chaos to figure out who they are. Then she walked out. As the bell above the door jingled behind her, I saw her shoulders bounce slightly. She was humming. Humming like this was just a casual coffee date, and I hadn't just dumped every raw nerve on the table. I stayed frozen in that chair long after she was gone, fingers still curled around the edge of my cup. My reflection stared back at me in the cold coffee, tired eyes, hollow stare. This was the moment I stopped hoping anyone else would show up for me. Claire had secrets. Amanda had just confirmed it, even if she didn't use the words. And the rest of them, they were either in on it or too indifferent to care. I walked out into the gray drizzle and sat in my car a long time, staring at the steering wheel like it might offer answers. It didn't, but something inside me shifted. The pain didn't go away, it just sharpened, and I stopped feeling like a husband trying to save his marriage. I started feeling like a man preparing for war. The next morning, I woke up already knowing what I had to do. Enough guessing. Enough watching dots on a screen and trying to decode every twitch of Claire's expression. I needed truth. Ugly, sharp, undeniable. Her words weren't cutting it. Amanda's smug detachment hadn't helped. So I called someone who dealt in reality. Ellis Ward. Ellis wasn't a friend. He was a name I'd overheard at a poker night once. One of those whispered, weighty names people pass around when things get complicated. I found him through a burner email. Within a few hours, we met in a quiet corner booth at a diner near the freeway. He wore a faded baseball cap, a charcoal jacket, and had that calm you only get from seeing the worst in people and surviving it. You're looking for discretion, he said, not asking, just stating. Yes. Spouse, I nodded. Claire. I think she's seeing someone. Maybe more than just seeing. Ellis scribbled a few notes in a small notebook. You want audio GPS photos? Just one thing, I said. Proof. He looked up. Proof of what? Of who? He nodded once. Give me a week. 6 days later, my phone buzzed at 10:17 p.m. One message. No words, just a photo. I downloaded it onto my desktop, clicked it open in the silence of my study. There she was. Claire, my wife, kissing Brett, Amanda's husband. The shot was taken outside Amanda's house, right next to the driveway. Claire's hands in Brett's hair, his arm wrapped around her waist like it belonged there. There was no hesitation in that image. No drunken stumble, no moment of weakness, just certainty. It was the kind of kiss you give someone when guilt isn't even part of the conversation anymore. I sat back in my chair, the screen glowing against the shadows of the room. I didn't say anything, didn't throw anything, didn't cry. I just stared at that photo, letting every breath slow until it matched the rhythm of my thoughts. So it was Brett. All this time Brett. Not some stranger, not some coworker. No hotel room fling or emotional affair with a college friend. It was Amanda's husband. Betrayal right inside the family. The one option I hadn't wanted to believe, because it meant everyone had lied. Claire, Amanda, even Brett, that golden boy who'd always slapped my back a little too hard at barbecues. I saved the image to a drive, backed it up twice. Then I turned off the monitor. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't in months. Not heartbreak, not rage, control. Finally, because now I wasn't guessing anymore. I had the card in my hand, and I knew exactly when I'd play it. Dinner smelled like garlic and lemon, but it tasted like ashes. Claire had made pasta, a rare move. She only cooked when she wanted to signal something. Peace. Normalcy. A reset button she kept hitting, hoping it would fix what had already shattered. She poured wine into both glasses and sat across from me, adjusting her napkin on her lap like she was preparing for a performance. "So," she said lightly, "how was your day?" I watched her carefully, the way her eyes flicked away from mine when she asked, the way she gripped her wine stem too tight. "Productive," I said. She nodded. "That's good." We ate in silence a few minutes, forks clinking, glasses shifting, but no words. The kind of silence that knows exactly what it's hiding. Then, casually, I said, "Where were you today?" Claire didn't flinch. "Amanda's." "For how long?" She chewed slowly. "Most of the afternoon." "What were you doing?" She smiled, a fake, careful smile. "Helping her with some stuff. Errands." She needed a hand moving things from the garage. "You know how she is." I nodded slowly. "Sure." She tilted her head. "Why?" "No reason." I went back to my food. Let the silence stretch. Claire twirled her fork. "You're being weird again." "Am I?" She leaned forward slightly. "Yes. You're asking these weirdly specific questions, like you're building a case." I looked her dead in the eyes. "And if I were?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Then I'd say maybe you need a new hobby." That made me smile, just a little. She tried to hold the moment, tried to laugh it off. "Come on, Amanda. You know she's useless with anything heavier than a shoebox." "Do I know that?" I asked. Claire hesitated. "Yeah, of course." I pushed my plate forward slightly and leaned back, studying her like I had all the time in the world. She shifted in her seat. "You're not going to tell me what this is about?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not tonight." The air went still, so still I could hear the refrigerator humming from the other room. Claire reached for her wine again, took a long sip, then another. I could see the gears turning in her head. She wanted to ask more, press, defend, but something stopped her. Maybe my tone, or maybe the quiet certainty behind my eyes. The kind that doesn't ask questions anymore because it already knows the answers. She set her glass down a little too hard. "I don't know what you think you know, Jonathan, but what?" I interrupted softly. She hesitated again. "Nothing." I smiled, slow and steady. "Exactly." And with that, I stood from the table, gathered my plate, and walked into the kitchen. I didn't slam anything. I didn't say another word. I just washed the dishes, because tomorrow was already written in my mind, and I wanted the table clean. Claire's parents' house had always been loud. Birthday banners, kids running through the halls, cheap wine, and too many side dishes cluttering every inch of counter space. It should have felt familiar. It didn't. I stood in the foyer a little too long, watching the swarm of people already gathered, Claire's mother directing traffic in the kitchen, her dad dozing in front of the game, a cousin in the corner trying to keep twin toddlers from climbing the couch like a jungle gym. Then I saw her, Claire, laughing like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't shattered something between us and left it to bleed in silence. And then I saw him, Brett, Amanda's husband, golden boy, the human compliment machine. He was carrying a cake box from the car, all smiles and sleeves rolled up like he'd just spent the morning rescuing kittens. Claire didn't even glance at him. Too smooth. Too rehearsed. I walked in and joined the flow of small talk. Handshakes, fake chuckles, the works. Amanda greeted me with an odd half-smile, guarded, like she knew the walls were about to come down, but wasn't sure which side she'd end up on. Dinner was served just after 6. Long table, folded chairs, mismatched placemats. I ended up across from Claire and 3 seats down from Brett. Amanda sat between them like a fence post. The conversation bounced from vacation plans to sports to Claire's cousin's new boyfriend, who doesn't eat carbs but is still somehow annoying. I nodded along, said almost nothing. Every word I spoke felt like a countdown ticking lower until dessert. That's when she leaned in. Claire, with her soft smile and wine-glazed eyes. leaned across the table, brushed my hand lightly, and whispered, "I'm sorry about this week." She leaned in further. Her lips touched mine, a soft, practiced kiss, and I let it land. Then I turned to Brett, and, loud enough for the whole table to hear, I said, "I don't want to taste your lover on my wife's lips." The room froze. Forks dropped. Claire's eyes went wide. Brett turned pale. Amanda blinked like she'd misheard. "What? What did you just say?" Claire whispered. I stood slowly. "Everyone in this room deserves to know." I began, voice clear. "Claire has been lying for months. To me. To all of you." "Jonathan," Claire said, warning in her voice. "Stop." I pulled my phone from my jacket, turned the screen to face the room. "This is Claire. And that," I pointed across the table, "is Brett, Amanda's husband, kissing outside Amanda's house. Broad daylight. No shame." A gasp rippled down the table. Someone's glass tipped. A fork clattered off a plate. Amanda stood slowly, hands trembling. Claire's voice cracked. "You're doing this here? You kissed him here. You lied here. You smiled in your sister's face and then slept with her husband behind her back." Brett stood up. "Jonathan, calm down." I turned to him, razor sharp. "I've been calm for weeks. While you two made a fool of me and a joke of Amanda." Amanda started shaking. "You said, Claire, you told me nothing was going on." Claire turned toward her. "Mandy, I didn't mean for it to. Save it." Amanda snapped, voice breaking. "You looked me in the eye and lied." Brett reached for Amanda. "It wasn't like that." She slapped his hand away. "You two are disgusting." Claire stood. "Jonathan, we can talk about this later." I cut her off. "There won't be a later." I pulled a manila envelope from my coat. "Divorce papers. Filed. And I've got enough evidence to make sure you walk out of court with nothing but your last name." Claire stared at the envelope like it was a snake. "I loved you," I said for the last time. "And you tore that apart for this." I looked around the room one last time. "I'm done pretending." Then I walked out, and behind me, chaos. Amanda sobbing, Brett shouting, Claire begging. But I didn't turn back. Not once. It was just past 7 when I heard the knock. Not the firm kind, but timid, uncertain, like someone already half regretting showing up. I opened the door slowly. Amanda stood on the porch, clutching her coat like it was the only thing holding her together. Her eyes were red-rimmed, cheeks raw, either from crying or the wind. Maybe both. "Jonathan," she said quietly. I didn't move. "Amanda." She looked past me, like maybe the version of me she remembered still lived somewhere inside. "I wouldn't come here if I didn't have to," she said, voice shaking. "Can I come in?" I opened the door wider. She stepped inside without waiting for warmth. We stood in the entryway like strangers at a funeral. "You look tired," she said. I nodded once. "You don't look much better." That almost made her laugh, but it died before it reached her lips. "I filed last week," she said finally. "The papers are in." He's pretending to be confused, like he's the one who got ambushed. Typical. "I want to destroy him," she said, voice cracking. "I want him to lose everything, the house, the kids, the pride he walks around with." She reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive. "I need the photo." I stared at it. That tiny device holding the moment everything broke. Amanda's eyes filled. "You have no idea how hard it was for me to come here." "I think I do," I said, stepping back slightly. "Because I remember coming to you first." "Remember that?" "At the coffee shop." Her jaw tightened. "That was different." "No, it wasn't." My voice was calm, steady. "You laughed at me, mocked me, dismissed me when I was begging for help. I didn't know it was this bad. You didn't want to know." She flinched. "Claire was your sister," I continued. "I get it. You picked her. But now you want to use me to punish Brett, to win." "I'm not asking for revenge," she said. "I'm asking for justice." "No, you're asking for a weapon." Silence hung heavy in the hallway. "I'm not going to be that for you," I said. Amanda's lower lip trembled. "So you're just going to let him walk away from this?" "I'm going to let you figure out who you are without needing to borrow my fight." She shook her head, blinking fast. "You sound just like her." That stung, but I didn't show it. Amanda stepped back, shoulders slumping like the strength had finally drained from her bones. "You're not the only one who lost something," she whispered. "I know," I said. "But I'm the only one who remembered who was laughing when I asked for help." She stood there a second longer, then nodded. "Goodbye, Jonathan." I didn't say it back. She turned and walked to her car, slowly, each step smaller than the last, her figure shrinking into the dusk like someone retreating from a war she never understood. And I shut the door. Peace didn't feel triumphant, but it did feel quiet. It was a gray Sunday, one of those days where the sky can't decide if it wants to rain or just hang heavy over the rooftops. I was fixing the shed lock when I heard footsteps on the gravel. I turned. Brett stood at the edge of my driveway, sheepish grin on his face and a bottle of overpriced scotch tucked under one arm like it made him less pathetic. "Hey," he said, lifting the bottle slightly. "Thought we could talk." I didn't move. He approached slowly, like I was a bear he hoped wouldn't charge. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to see," he said. "But I wanted to say thanks." I raised an eyebrow. "For not torching me in front of everyone else," he explained. "The business guys, the firm. You could have sent that photo to more than just family. You didn't. I appreciate that." He extended the bottle like a peace offering. I didn't take it. "You think this is about appreciation?" He shifted awkwardly. I know I messed up. Claire and I, we were both. Don't." He blinked. "Don't what?" "Don't stand on my porch and try to explain it like you're some confused teenager. You're a grown man. You knew exactly what you were doing. You did it anyway. And you smiled through every barbecue, every game night, every fake conversation with me." Brett swallowed. "You're right. I did. Why are you really here?" He hesitated. "To make peace." I stepped forward fast, grabbed him by the collar, and slammed him against the front door. The bottle slipped from his grip and hit the steps with a muffled thud. "If I see you again," I said, voice low and steady, "I'll bury that smile of yours. You hear me?" His eyes went wide. He nodded quickly. I let him go. He stumbled back, tripping over his own ego, scrambling to pick up the bottle like it still mattered. "I didn't do it for you," I added. "I kept quiet because I didn't want to waste another second of my life thinking about you. That's the gift." Brett backed away, nodding again, face pale. I got it. He turned and practically ran down the sidewalk, bottle tucked under his arm like a coward's trophy. I watched him until he vanished around the corner. The air was still, and for the first time in months, no ticking, no buzzing, no pretending. Just silence. And it felt like peace.